Guest today is back on top of the Pinoy Pro Wrestling scene. He prevailed in a three-way match to emerge as the new Manila Wrestling Federation Pinoy Champion in MWF Road to Fate 2022. That happened just last Sunday. And now joining us this Friday to go all out on this story is the champ himself with the belt. There it is. He'll be holding the belt, I'm assuming, the whole interview. We have Mr. Philippine Wrestling, Jake De Leon, here on Sports Desk on CNN Philippines. Hi, Jake. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here on Sports Desk.
Good morning, Andre, and good morning to everyone watching right now. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. Is that the belt? Is that the belt?
This is the belt. This is the belt. It's huge. It's heavy, and I'm going to be holding it the whole interview because why not? I'm the champ. That's what champs do.
Yeah,
champs
of course.
do hard things.
Ang ganda naman nung belt kasi parang from my perspective, parang jeep, yung harapan ng jeep, 'di ba? Yung
Exactly.
Yung design
Exactly. That is it.
Ganda.
That is it. It's very, very Pinoy in its theme.
Yeah.
The head or like the base plate is like the front of the Jeep. Obviously, we have the decal on the top. We have the chickens, which is very reminiscent of a Filipino culture because we all know that. We have some tambos here on the bottom. We have the sun over here because, you know, Filipinos in the sun. We have the pearls and the horns of the tamarao or the kalabaw. And it's very Pinoy in its presentation, and that is what Manila Wrestling Federation is, and that is what we as Philippine wrestlers try to do.
Jake, kaya ako natatawa. Actually, hindi ko nga napansin kasi medyo yung ano ko, yung view ko, yung eyesight ko. Pero my producer just in my ear told me, may nakasulat dyan sa ilalim.
Yes, so meron sa taas, pinaka-romantikong pakikidigma, yung nasa baba.
Okay, sa baba.
And then we have
saksak
puso, tulo ang dugo.
Bakit yan yung nakasulat?
I mean, it's like everything about Filipinos and like everything about us. We're all very much for the flair and the dramatic, and that is what this belt represents. We're showing everyone that pro wrestling in its core is both sports and entertainment. So when it comes to like being the top dog, being the top Philippine wrestler or pro wrestler here in the Philippines, it's all about how much passion, how much love you exude. Kaya nga ikaw ang pinaka-romantikong pakikidigma pag ikaw ang MWF Pinoy Wrestling Champion.
Hindi na ako makikipagtalo sa'yo doon. Naniniwala na ako ikaw ang pinaka-romantikong mandirigma. Mas gusto ko maging kaibigan kaysa kalaban. So, nung balikan natin yung laban mo, dapat four-way match yun, di ba, Jake? It was supposed to be a four-way match since the original main event card included you, si Nigel San Jose, si Fabio Makisig, at si Crystal. Apparently, Crystal went down with an illness, so hindi makalaban. What was it like to become the MWF Pinoy Wrestling Champ, to have that belt, and yun nga, naging three-way yung laban mo, and you came out on top?
Yeah, so again, it's unfortunate that Crystal was not able to make this match because I was ready for that four-way match. But obviously, with how the world is nowadays, we can't be too careful.
Yeah,
so I'm wishing Crystal well on her recovery. I'm pretty sure she's doing great. She's a strong competitor. But yeah, when it changed into that three-way match, obviously everything in the plans had to be thrown out. You have to kind of like fix things on the fly. And the feeling of like winning that championship, despite all those changes, despite all those obstacles, it's just very vindicating. It's everything that I wanted it to be. And like I've been a champion in the past, and then now like a lot of years later, I'm a champion again, and I'm here to still prove that Mr. Philippine Wrestling is still at the top of the Philippine wrestling scene here in the country. And then I will carry this both responsibility and a burden with strength, with passion, with courage. So that I want the Philippine wrestling scene here in the country to keep growing, and so that more people will know all about us.
Ikaw pa lang yung third ever MWF champion.
Third ever.
Tama ba?
Yes.
Oo. Yung last champion, si Ho Lun from Hong Kong 2019. That was before the pandemic. After 3 years, at least Pinoy na yung may hawak ng belt, and rightfully so kasi syempre Manila Wrestling Federation, tapos 'di ba dapat Pinoy yung may hawak. What is the significance of that to you, na sa wakas, 'di ba, ikaw nga si Mr. Philippine Wrestling and the belt is with you now?
Yes. So it's really significant because for those who don't know, Ho Ho Loon, he comes from Hong Kong. He's from Hong Kong Pro Wrestling Federation. He actually was a former WWE superstar. He's also
Wow.
wrestled in now All Elite Wrestling. So it was fitting for him to be a champion. Like he came here to the Philippines. He showed everyone that he was the best pro wrestler when he came here in the Philippines. Sadly, the pandemic happened, so he couldn't defend it. So he had to relinquish it. It feels great that a Filipino is now holding the MWF Pinoy Wrestling Championship, but it still feels a little bit lacking because I would have liked to beat Ho Ho Loon for this belt.
Of course,
So
yeah.
if Ho Ho Loon is watching, I'm not sure if he is. If you're watching Ho Ho Loon, the belt is right here. I'm ready for a challenge, and we can make sure that I rightfully deserve this. But then again, I still rightfully deserve it because I won in that three-way championship match this past Sunday at MWF Road
Of
to Fame.
course. And this will air on, I mean, we will put this on the CNN Philippines page on YouTube, by the way. So hopefully Ho Ho Loon watches this and responds to your challenge. And that will be a great blockbuster showdown between you, Mr. Philippine Wrestling, against a former champion, Ho Ho Loon. Well, like all other leagues, here in the country, the pro wrestling scene was also affected, as you said, and we talked about it a bit, the pandemic, because the whole world came to a halt. But how did you guys cope? You personally na lang, Jake, how did you, keep the adrenaline up there? Because it was difficult, right? And even
Yeah.
athletes from different sports, every time I get to talk to an athlete, mahirap talaga yung online training. It's really different. And you personally, how did you cope and also, still stay on tip-top shape?
Yeah, so it was really hard when the pandemic hit because we couldn't go out, we couldn't go to training, we couldn't meet up and everything because a lot of pro wrestling training is definitely like training with others.
Yeah.
It's like because obviously like when it comes to like boxing and MMA, you spar. It's pretty much the same with pro wrestling.
Contact sport,
You
yeah,
spar,
correct.
you learn with others, you train really hard with others. So when the pandemic hit, pretty much the whole pro wrestling industry came to a halt. It wasn't until like things started opening up a little bit where we can finally go to the gym, kind of like meet up a little bit, even though just a limited number of us tried to meet up. That's where we actually just kind of started things up again. But during the first few parts of the pandemic, it was hard to keep the fire going. But the thing with pro wrestling, especially with Philippine wrestling, I feel is like it's hard to find anyone else passionate enough to do this because honestly we're just not that old of an industry, we're not that big of an industry, so like everything during the pandemic was against us to fail. Everything was set up for us to fail and just really just die out.
Yeah.
But that's something to show about the Filipino wrestler, that our passion and our dedication to this art form, to this sport that we have, just kept burning. And shout out to the people obviously in Manila Wrestling Federation for keeping that fire alive and helping the whole Philippine wrestling industry keep that fire alive enough for us to come back and put on shows like you're watching on TV, like you're watching here on the screen right now.
Jake, you're a pro wrestler for almost a decade now. How would you assess the state of the country's pro wrestling scene so far? Ano yung mga, let's face it, there are challenges and it's really difficult to promote pro wrestling here in the country with alam naman natin, pag sinabi Pilipinas, we're a basketball-loving country, and then the emergence of football, volleyball as well. But you personally, how would you assess the state of, Pinoy wrestling?
Well, the state of Pinoy wrestling is still very much in its infancy, even though we've been around for almost a decade now. We've just been like trying our best to show everyone what we can do. And that's really all that we can do. It really just takes like a few people, or maybe even just like a few whatever companies that like see how much passion we have, see what we can offer, and that's what we aim to do. It's like how like you mentioned with basketball, everyone loves basketball in the Philippines. I love basketball, for example. But the thing is, we look to the sports that wasn't as big as basketball and are now having their own success stories. We were talking about volleyball, we're talking about weightlifting, we're talking about tennis, we're talking about like pole vaulting, for example, with EG Obiena. Like everyone is an example for us, and everyone, like everything around us, every sport around us that we can just look to, try to emulate what they do, and really we just want to keep putting ourselves out there just so that the right people, or like the right amount of people, can see us and that we can keep growing this industry that we love so much.
Siyempre, pag sinabi mong pro wrestling, there's the WWE. Tapos All Elite Wrestling naman or AEW naman ang major competitor nitong WWE. Sa Asia, New Japan Pro Wrestling ang top promotion. Ngayon naman, what can you, let's talk about the scene, the wrestling scene in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. The wrestling scene in Southeast Asia is also pretty much in its infancy. We are getting to where we want to go, but we're still really far from where we want to be. So we have countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Taiwan. We have Taiwan, we have Vietnam. There's a lot of different promotions already in a lot of different Southeast Asian countries. We are friends with a lot of them. We kind of like have these like talent exchanges sometimes, or like if ever we are in the country, we have an opportunity to wrestle for them. That's what we try to do. We try to grow with each other. We're not trying to close each other off, although there is like a friendly bit of competition among Southeast Asian promotions, obviously which one can do it better, but it's still very much friendly, and we still want to like grow together as opposed to like kind of like be in competition with each other. So like it's very heartwarming to see just how far we've come from, like, for example, we started back in like 2013, 2014. Now we're in 2022, and like we are miles away from where we are, but we're still also miles away from where we want to be.
Quickly, your message to the fans of Pinoy Wrestling. Go ahead.
Please, to the fans of Pinoy Wrestling, please catch a Manila Wrestling Federation show, or please just support Philippine wrestling. You can catch the episodes of Manila Wrestling Federation on www.manilawrestling.com. Subscribe to them on Gank. And please, all we really ask is for you to give us a chance to show everyone, to show you what our talent is and how much passion we have for this sport of ours.
Jake, thank you so much for your time. Happy weekend. Stay safe. And I have a feeling we'll be talking to you again here on the show. Congratulations again to you. And that was Manila Wrestling Federation Pinoy Wrestling Champ, Mr. Philippine Wrestling, Jake De Leon, still holding on to his belt. Baka katabi niya matulog. Thanks, Jake. Now,